to be, but we're now live. Welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. I'm going to have our guests introduce themselves. Doc, you're
I'm
muted.
I'm not a guest. I'm just like a virus. I just show up once in a while. Hey everybody, Doc Sheldon here of Intrinsic Value SEO and Search News Central.
Terry,
Terry Van Horn, SEO Pros International. Well, I don't know. In Lingo. SEO Pros, I guess. That's what I've been working on.
Bill Slosky, Go Fish Digital and SEO by the Sea. And I'm busy writing blog posts for Go Fish Digital on short answer passages. And it describes what the scoring criteria are for passages they might show up as answers to question answering queries. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, considering they're in almost every SERP you look at now.
Google is moving away from the original inspiration, which was just showing lots of links. I mean, answering questions.
But isn't that but answering questions is the best way to keep them on Google, correct? And isn't that the end goal?
I like the people also ask questions where you could just bounce from answer to answer to answer and spend a whole day on a Google search results page.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with that. Yeah.
You could now if you kept clicking the right ones, I'm sure. Because I see them in every search.
The more you click, the more options appear down below. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And the more paid ads there are on pages. Yeah.
That too.
Good for business.
I mean, I like that business model better than what Yahoo used to do with the celebrity news. You'd search for something and there'd be like news about Justin Bieber and things like that.
Oh, like, and it'd all go
not really what I want to look at today.
Or any other day.
Yeah.
and it would all be pages on Yahoo, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Which made it even worse.
Mm-hmm.
AOL suffered from that a bit too.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't there just a news article that said the company that bought AOL and Yahoo have revalued them at like zero? Because the advertising on them is turned out to be useless. People aren't clicking on the ads.
I forget who bought Yahoo.
I think it was Verizon.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think they named the company Oath.
Oh, right. But they all have ad delivery systems, and that sounded like what they were trying to do there. Like there's some stuff happening. If you're watching TV now, right?
Yeah.
In Canada, I don't know what it does in the States, but now all the channels, instead of saying a program comes on at such and such a time, it says streaming app, and you can go to their website anytime and watch the show.
It's on your television?
Yeah, CTV, CBC, and most of the upper channels. See, Rogers here also owns a big internet company as well.
Upper channels? You mean like the...
Through them as well.
The main local channels in your area? Remember when TVs used to have dials? They used to
Yeah, but there are no local channels anymore in Canada.
Right, 2 through
CBC is
13.
almost nothing.
Yeah, and you had VHF and UHF.
Oh no, they shut them down years ago.
Yeah,
Like they just quit. Told everyone we're going digital, and those will no longer be available.
it's
They
like
shut those channels down, basically.
it's like plain old copper telephone lines.
Yeah, I guess.
Nobody uses those. Yeah,
I don't recall ever seeing any publication of the fact that they were being killed down here. But yeah, they disappeared a few years ago. I don't recall ever hearing anybody talk about it. It's just one day everything was digital.
Well, that's a big deal up here because there's a lot of parts of Canada where that's all they could get, right?
Yeah.
And they probably only get the CBC.
and I've been thinking about buying a new television because the prices have dropped dramatically.
Hey, you can
4K TVs.
They can make them anymore.
Yeah,
and even if you're not looking at 4K, Bill, you can get right now. I looked at the other day at a 32-inch smart TV for $80.
really.
Yeah. And you can get a Samsung, a known brand for like 150.
Is that in Mexico?
I've seen
No, that's like on the other side, like at Best Buy.
I've seen like 40-some inch TVs 4K for 179.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just a TV. But if you can get to a smart TV, then you can get really good resolution, and you've also got something that'll tie into your computer system. They've even got some that have wireless capability, so you can set it up as a monitor from your computer, even though it's not cabled to it.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I saw a comment thread on one of those in the reviews that people were really dumbfounded at the fact that the signal was nice and clean and clear. A lot of wireless stuff is not too good. You get a lot of noise and static and whatnot. And they said, no, it was just as good as if it was cabled in.
Have you seen any of the 5G routers?
Not yet.
For Wi-Fi?
Not yet, no.
I've seen stories about them. They sound pretty useful. You don't need wires going to your TV anymore for internet access.
Right. Yeah, I saw one post about them. I wasn't even aware that there was a 5G out yet, but I haven't looked at it at all.
I think they're still working on them. I don't think they're out. I could be wrong, but
Could be interesting.
I have a bedroom without a TV in it, and I'd like to put one in there. But it seems like it's worth waiting until 5G is available, and I can get one of these $179 4K TVs.
I would imagine that some of the cable companies would be pushing back against that really hard, since right now, if you want another TV set in your bedroom, you got to add on to your service subscription, and with that, you wouldn't. So they're going to be up in arms to try to stop that, I'm sure.
They would know if you're doing that by the what bandwidth that it's pulling.
One would assume, because they can certainly detect it now, if on a cable setup. Yeah, been able to do it for years.
Every once in a while, I have to phone the company and get them to fine tune it, or all of a sudden, picture will get pixelated, and that's even with after I've rebooted the whole system to kind of flush it. Sometimes it takes them at their end making some adjustments for it to start working right.
Never had to do that, but that would explain some issues we've had occasionally.
Yeah, where sometimes the channels that I watch the most, it's just black, and I have to reboot the whole thing to get it to come back.
Yeah, I've had to reboot many times,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'll get an awful lot of static and snow and scratchiness that acts like it's just a bad connection someplace. And I reboot, let it sit 5 minutes, and bring it back up, and it's clean as a whistle.
Yeah, they told me that you should do it at least once a month.
My provider reprogrammed their hubs, and now they have a dedicated news channel. When you turn the TV on, it automatically switches over to that channel. So it looks like it was a big branding play on their part, but I don't have to reboot the router every day like I was doing.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
they're using that to adjust your TV, maybe, to adjust their settings, maybe,
I think so.
and sell some advertising.
Yeah.
That too.
Because I turn mine up on the sports channel when I wake up, because I watch the highlights for hour when I get up.
Yeah, I do the same thing. There's a ESPN show called Get Up, which does pretty good coverage of
All the sports.
football and basketball. Not really hockey, but
Right. Here it's the opposite. And if the Raptors aren't doing very well, you don't hear about basketball much at all. Right now, it's right up there because they're not doing too bad. But yeah, they kind of disappeared for a decade.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really happy when they started doing that because having to reboot the router was a pain.
Well, at least the company, right? When I actually got on the phone with a tech guy, he told me exactly what was happening, and I understood it. Like, it's not much they can do about it. It's just the way the equipment works. And if you don't know to reboot it, right? I do say, though, that having to reboot it every day, turn it on and then shut it off and then turn it on again. Yeah, I don't know. That seems a bit much.
I saw an estimate that said the expected life cycle of those machines is about 5 years.
Oh, yeah, I probably change mine about every 3, and they never say anything. I just drop it off at the store and say, yeah, this ain't working right anymore. They say, oh, no problem. Here's a new one. Of course, I spend about $300 a month with them, so they want to keep me happy.
Well, and they've learned that an unhappy Terry in their storefront is not good for business.
No, not unless, yeah. Same at the bank. I was in the bank one day, right? And I was talking to a guy, and when he saw I did internet business, he was kind of interested. We got talking, and he said, hey, can I give you a bit of advice? I said, sure. He said, well, there's a note on your account that says you're kind of abusive to the tellers. Only because I don't like it when people are just being dumb.
Well, it's like, my work here is done, eh?
Well, you cash the same check for twice a month for 5 months, and suddenly they ask you for ID. Mm-hmm. Right? And you're just doing the deposit, not taking any money out.
Our bank started demanding that you can still go up to an ATM and make a deposit to your account with your debit card. But now when you go into the branch, they won't take a deposit without ID, which I think is bullshit.
Oh, Christ, almost when I was in the chef business, almost every place I worked, someone, there's one guy's name on the bank account, right? That guy would have to go to 30 different places to hand the money in.
So I work so far away from my office, I have direct deposit. I don't see a check.
Mm.
It makes it easier. As a matter of fact, I don't do too many transactions with the bank. I mean, the mobile apps to deposit checks these days.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably better off with that.
I don't have a mobile phone though. And the other thing, about half my checks would come in American, and you have to be there in person to cash the American check. You can't do that through, because the machine doesn't know whether it's US or Canadian, right? So it's going to assume everything is Canadian.
That'd hurt.
What difference does that make?
Well, that's what they told us at the bank. American checks, you have to, the ATM won't even take them.
American checks bounce differently?
I don't know what it is. Oh, they might not recognize the bank, for one.
Yeah, the routing codes may be an issue.
I don't know. They just told me I had to bring it in. So I never did my banking. My brother always did it.
It sounds like there's probably a technical solution to that problem.
Oh, but the banks here, they don't, they can charge you then for a transaction.
I can understand why maybe you were abusive to some of those tellers.
Yeah, it all kind of comes together here.
My thing is I just get pissed off with them over years, right?
Yeah.
Of having the same bullshit, because I don't carry identification with me, right? Never have, never will, probably.
I can kind of get along with that. Anybody that I want to know who I am already knows.
That's right.
The rest of them, fuck them.
Well, sometimes, always safe.
I got in a pissing contest with a local cop down here several months ago because I happened to be one of 3 people that saw a pedestrian get hit by a car. So they were approaching us and asking for witness statements. He wanted to see my identification. I haven't got any on me. And he wanted to take my ass in because I didn't have any ID on me.
Down there, identification would be a big deal, wouldn't it?
It is, in fact, even a Mexican citizen, they do require by law that you have identification. The truth of the matter is, though, that about 70% of the populace down here doesn't have any identification. They don't have a passport. They don't have a voter registration card. They don't have a driver's license. They've never have had any, and most of them never will. But for a foreigner particularly, they get pretty squeaky. And that's what his problem was. He detected I was an American, and I had to have an identification. I said, well, I know who I am, and anybody I give a fuck about knows who I am, and the rest of them I don't give a fuck about. That's where the conversation kind of went south.
Yeah.
But I've been hanging around you too long, Terry.
So is Google Plus done at the end of March? Is that right?
They aren't really too specific about any of the news. Google Plus for consumers is done in April.
What's Google Plus for consumers?
Something they just came up with.
Yeah. Just dropped
When
a
they
comment about it, but they never identified it.
when they announced Google Plus was going away, they called it Google Plus for consumers. Like there's a Google Plus for business, sort of like
Which would be
Slack.
Google My Business, right? Is that it? Or
No, not officially, because
okay.
because they haven't really defined what those things are. It's like they want to sell. There's a Google service for businesses where you get your domain name tied to email server, Gmail, uh, and you use like Bill.Slosky at Go Fish Digital is uses Gmail, and it's a Google Business service.
Okay.
Which is not free.
Right.
So they may make Google Plus part of one of these Google Business services. So you like get a brand Google Plus page for your business. I think those
Well, they already have that.
Yeah, but
now it's free.
They haven't defined or described what the things
okay.
are that would go with
Basically,
these.
they're going to start charging for listings on Google Plus or on Google Maps. That's probably what they're planning to do.
They're probably not going to start charging for listings on Google Maps because they still sell advertisements on Google Maps.
Okay.
And
okay, I never noticed any ads.
I could certainly see a possibility of them starting to charge on G Plus for businesses, and I can also see a possibility of ads starting to be displayed on G Plus for businesses, because it's going to be a place for consumers to go when they're looking for a supplier or a vendor.
And they've been making Google My Business more social.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can make posts through your knowledge panel using Google My Business.
Yep.
Right. Well, they already have the facilities to post. Only it's really restricted right now. I think they're going to open that up and basically let you do what you were doing on your Google Plus page right through the business.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sense, because literally the company, one of my clients, we post every day on Google Plus, and have been doing so for almost since it started. So all that content's just going to go poof. I can't see Google doing that.
Do you use the buttons for those posts, like the event buttons or the product buttons?
We do some of that. We also do the regular posting, right? So what we do is someone collects news items or interesting business posts related to our, what we're doing, and publishes 2 or 3 of those, does some in the communities. And that's how we were building the channel, was through communities. And that's where a lot of our posting was. That will go by the wayside, correct? Or have they not really?
They haven't, like I said, described or defined it very well yet.
In other words,
they haven't said what's going away.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. That's what I was wondering. Has there been any kind of announcement on that?
Google's lack of marketing know-how and communication skills is really astounding.
It is amazing.
They're really bad at it.
Yes.
That they are.
Yeah, because they could have made it a lot softer landing than what they did. Because everyone thinks, oh, they're just going to close it. I think that's foolish to think they're just going to junk it all. Mind you, I've already slowed down the posting in that area till we know better what's happening.
I've posted some things. I haven't given up completely.
Right.
It gets less remarks and less traffic as less people, as more people jump to conclusions that it's deserted completely.
Yes.
I pretty much abandoned him about 3 years ago.
I still read stuff there. I follow Bill, and anything I read that he says is worth a look. I'll see if it's of interest to me. If it is, I look. Don't say that I look at everything.
I keep on putting stuff up in different places because I think people find value with this stuff. Yeah.
But those places are decreasing. And being able to get visible on some of them is becoming a joke. Facebook basically is a joke.
Yeah.
3,000 people say, yeah, I want to follow you. And then you post something and 6 people see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. That's basically saying, yeah, they basically got people to build people actually invested money to build a following, thinking that that following, like on all other social networks, would actually get to see everything they posted, not what Facebook decides people should see, based on it's got to be random. Some guy just throws sheets up in the air or something. Those are the 6 that see, because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I did a very brief test here a couple of weeks ago. I put up something that showed up in my email that was very, very timely and fresh. And I posted about it on Facebook. Nobody else had yet. I got 660, 70 followers, something like that. The next day I got a notification that 12 people had seen that post. And it was posted to public.
Right.
It wasn't like to friends only or anything else. It was public, and 12 friggin' people saw it. And I had like 80 comments on the damn thread. So I don't know. I'm sure that they think they have some method to their madness, but it certainly doesn't make any sense to me. Engagement supposedly plays into it. I've got plenty of engagement.
So those numbers don't match up.
No.
Nothing makes sense on Facebook, including when you pay for their bloody ads and average time on site 3 seconds. What does that tell you about Facebook advertising? That 90% of the clicks are bots.
Yeah. Probably good choice, good chance of that. Yeah. What were the analytics programs that people used to run their websites 10, 12 years ago? The ones that counted visits to your sites?
Stat Counter was one.
Stat Counter, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get a list of all the domains that people supposedly came from to your site.
The keyword being supposedly.
You can get that in IIS. And it's actually got a GUI attached to it and everything. I'm actually testing out the new servers right now.
AWS?
Yeah.
MS, Microsoft,
Oh.
AWS. Don't swear.
I remember there was a time not too many years past when you and Dave both swore by AWS. I never actually tried it.
I've never used Amazon. Never. Ever. Ever. It's a dirty thing to me. I have never liked it.
There seem to be a lot of people out there who do.
Well, because most of them don't know what a real CDN is.
There's that.
I mean, services like Netflix rely on AWS.
So does Major League Baseball. But that's a different thing. That's just data flowing, right? Like in a baseball game now, when a player hits the ball, they can tell you exactly how fast that ball was going after it hit.
Mm-hmm.
At what angle and to
Yeah,
what
all kinds
part of the field. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's and the teams use that data in-house.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really good at that. I just don't like it for doing websites. That's all.
They were doing defensive shifts based on that data, and which player was at bat. They'd move the people so that all of them were standing on the same side of the field.
My thing is,
tended to hit that way.
Right, 90% of the people that are on a CDN probably don't need to be. It's some guy got talked into it, and so they're paying for stuff that they don't really need.
Well, it's like when the Google animated assistant told me that my servers were really slow for visitors from India.
Good.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Who cares?
Can you expand that territory to include Bangladesh, please?
I'm thinking, okay, most of the Indians who come to my website are the ones who leave comments on my blog because they think that I'm a do follow blog.
Hmm.
And if they comment on my blog, they're doing link building.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a heartbreaker to find out that I'm served slow in India. I don't know if I can recover from that.
It's like, yeah, I need to get a CDN so I'm not so slow in India.
Well, everybody in this area would be slow to India. That's just the way things work. It'd be slow to Britain, to the UK probably too.
Probably.
You know, and that's when a CDN does help because they can do that distributed hosting much easier, right?
Yeah.
And that's why you get a CDN. But how many websites really need that? I mean, if you're getting 200 visits from, you know, if 20% of your business is coming from there, that's probably 20% that you're making no sales on anyway.
It's likely I don't need a global audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you do have a global audience, right, they're willing to wait a little bit longer for your content.
Yeah.
And they probably understand that every site they go to in North America is slower than something local. And I think that's where the kind of mythology around it, right? AWS is probably really good at a lot of stuff, but probably not needed for most websites.
Well, and for a lot of people, too, when they were relatively new, or I shouldn't say new, they were relatively affordable for a change. CDN was just a buzzword, and an awful lot of people that aren't in our line of work just immediately either thought they should or fell for the line that they should spend the extra bucks and get on a CDN. And I can kind of support that argument simply because I saw an article not too long ago about Cloudflare, that when their business started to really take off, and then when it started to taper off, and they've been on a relatively gradual slowdown over the last 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But their business quadrupled in a period of about a year and a half.
And I've done audits on sites where the images were all extra large, way too large, and the sites were, those images were on CDNs. It's like, okay, you missed the point.
Yeah.
Just because your image is closer to where the people are who are downloading the image doesn't mean you're helping them that much when your images are that big.
Right. Yeah, Cloudflare is the one CDN that I did work with. And
I tried them, yeah.
Yeah, I took the guy, I told the guy if he wanted to work anymore on that I'd be looking elsewhere for a job. In other words, I didn't want to work on it.
I found them to be pretty inflexible on stuff.
Not only that, I found they changed the URL of images so they could cache them. Excuse me, that's just too much for me to remember. I'm sorry. I got to keep things simple, and that just didn't work for me. Just another layer of complexity, right? And that's, to me, as soon as if something adds more complexity to a website, it's now, you're adding risk and potential for more problems. In other words, the more complex something is, the more problematic it probably is going to be.
There's a lot of value to simplification. Yeah.
Well, you don't get any simpler than me.
Oh, I don't know. I might be able to give you a run for your money, buddy. I have lost.
Simple-minded, I meant, Doc.
I've suddenly lost. I've got nothing but a black screen. What the hell are you doing, Chrome? I may have to find a way to jump out of here and come back in.
Your picture's showing for me.
Yeah. It is?
Yeah, it is.
Huh.
When you're talking, it goes black. When you're not, it.
Okay, I'll jump out and come back.
Oh, there you go. So what did you say you were writing about, Bill?
It's question answering passages and how they score them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so, what's the most important aspects of a passage that Google might decide to use to show as a answer? And there are a lot of little things like the patent insisted that answers are independent of search results, whatever that means. But
so an answer isn't attached or part of a search. it's kind of, that's probably something that's done with Rank Brain, done at the time of the query.
Probably done at the time of the query. Yeah.
Right. And isn't that when Rank Brain is supposed to be doing it?
Well, yeah, but let's keep Rank Brain
out of it
in mind as a query rewriting tool, and not
Okay.
something that influences what you see in search results.
Yeah, it's non-organic. Yeah.
So it might decide if a question should go in that SERP then.
It might decide that a question should go in that SERP. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so right now it thinks every SERP deserves a question.
It's not too far from like the answer box patent from 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. I kind of look at this as a refinement of that answer box.
It's a different repository. It's like answer box used to be, okay, we're going to choose, do we show news? Do we show local? Do we show pictures? And answer box would pick one that it thought would fit the best instead of search results. So this adds a repository, an answer, a fact answer repository. We should show an answer. We should decide that this query is a question. If it's a question, we'll show an answer in an answer box. And we'll look for these certain scoring criteria to determine what the answer is going to show or say.
Right. And then they have those kind of associated to one another, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you click one, then more are added sometime.
Well, with the answer box, they could say they're judging the query. They're making a decision as to what the query is asking for. Is this something asking for something that's location specific, significant? If it is, we'll show maps results. Is this something that's news specific? You know, somebody's asking about a celebrity or something like
that's
that.
Almost like universal search a bit.
Universal search will take the query and identify if there are relevant results from a bunch of different repositories.
Right.
And if it thinks that there are and that they all offer something somewhat unique, it'll show those on search results.
Right. And it was we kind of knew that it was for 5 or 6 repositories.
You remember they used to refer to those as vertical creep into search results.
Right. Verticals.
And they would always show the same things in the same spots. Like you'd always start with images at the top.
I found they moved them around.
But they keep them in the same spot for months at a time.
Yes, but what I thought, right, when they first brought universal search out, one of the first things they added was video, and at the time, I had a company with a large amount of videos on YouTube. We were almost #1 across the board. Like, I couldn't believe it. 3 months later, we were below, we were number 10. And then it moved up and down and settled somewhere in the middle. But if you look, you could kind of correlate too, though. If you looked at the number of times that something had been watched, you could kind of tell where it was ranking at that time based on that, right?
You remember Maps results used to be 6-packs, and then they went down to 4-packs, and then 3-packs.
And to me, all of this is like that particular personalization or whatever package, right? and universal search. That's all. It's all evolved and just kept evolving and growing bigger to where, you'll never leave Google. You'll just sit there and get fed to you all the answers you want. You can literally do that. Now, when I want programming syntax and stuff like that, I just put into it a function and boom, and start it, and it gives you the answer.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. So, but here's the thing. I don't understand why people think that's bad. Because you know what? I go to those websites and just copy and paste what I was doing there anyhow. So basically, they were serving me pages and costing themselves money, and I wasn't going to buy anything or do anything much more there anyways. But if I was looking to buy something, I might have gone there, right? Or a recipe, or there's some things where that does generate a lot of traffic.
If I'm looking for a new plant for my patio, I'll look it up, and I'll start looking at the people also ask questions and find related plants, what types of fertilizers I should buy, what types of soils.
Right. Instead
And
of
it's really useful
to read 5 or 6 articles, you get all your questions answered right on Google. And that's what they want. That's the end game. And if you don't understand that, you're going to have a short career in this business.
Oh, from a user standpoint, I think it's great. And if the answer that you're getting still leaves a doubt, it gives you 90% of what you need, you can always click through and you can go to the website and get a better idea of the entire picture. But I get an awful lot of the information I'm looking for right there in Google. And as a user, I love it.
Yeah, but also as a site owner, you can't really complain about that.
And you're not really losing much unless, when they put a buy now button in the SERP, okay, I might get upset.
So I can give you some specific examples. I get a bunch of rich snippets for office space terms, right? It just tells them, for instance, most of them are in my description. I give a definition of what it is. Mm-hmm. And quite often, those get rich snippets. I get traffic from those pretty good.
Well, and that's the one thing that I do see as a downside for a site owner standpoint is the fact that if people are looking for your keyword, a keyword that you're going after, and they're looking for it, and they're getting the answer in the SERPs, you have no analytics. You have no idea if that keyword, what's the interest.
If your answer is written in a way where you're only having part of the answer shown, and there's a read more button, they'll click through, and you'll see that in your analytics. And the patent I was looking at today talked about how much content, and I didn't read the whole thing yet, so I haven't written that. It is where they are looking for more content than they'll publish on a page, so that they will have those read more. They have no problem with people clicking through the search result to find out more information from a page. So they don't demand the whole answer.
Well, that makes sense. From if their goal remains satisfying the user's query, then that makes sense. And obviously, we know their overriding goal is to make money on ads, but I do think that they still hold true to their desire to provide the users the best possible information. I haven't seen any evidence that's convinced me otherwise. I know that'll piss some people off, but I do think that they're still after that. So if your answer needs to be expanded upon on your page, it makes sense.
And people have expectations that they can run a business on the web with a business model that might get ruined when Google answers Abraham Lincoln was 6'4" tall.
Yeah.
Or the IP address that you're ad looking at us from is this. Now, what is my IP.com? What kind of business model is that?
Yeah, you're probably not going to lose a lot of revenue on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was my point, that, if you're getting that kind of traffic, right, you've probably been getting it for a long time, right? So if you haven't figured out how to monetize that, then you shouldn't be complaining. That's kind of my thoughts on it. And you probably don't know anyways that you're getting found for those things. That's one thing. SEM Rush does tell you when you have a rich snippet, right? So it also tells you where it appeared in the search by the location, the ranking that they give you. And then you can correlate that to the page, because they also tell you the page that got clicked to. You can figure it out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's a lot like work, Terry.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a lot of people, they expect that to be handed to them on a silver platter.
Well, yeah,
that's not the way this works.
Yeah, generally, people don't like to do reports, but that's how I figure out every month what I'm going to do from here.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I hate doing reports, okay? But almost every time I do one, in the process of compiling the report, I'll spot something that probably warrants a deeper look. A lot of times it's something worthwhile, that I would not have spotted probably if I wasn't doing the report. So, it's necessary evil. Even if you set aside the fact that the customer would kind of like to know what he's getting for his monthly fee, it can be very productive.
Yeah, I do it monthly, and I look at social, GSC, SEM Rush for ranking, and I get now most of the social from their social report, and now they're doing GMB as well. So that whole report, about 2 hours of my time, they're pulling it all in now.
They've got the D&B in there?
Yeah, they just released that.
Wow, neat.
Yeah, the insights part of it, right? So, when you go into Google My Business and you look at insights, you can get all those reports. What I would like them to do is also add in reviews, because then I would have no reason to go there. I also check every month for reviews at that time, so that, nothing gets slips through the cracks.
Every review gets an answer?
That's up to the client, right?
Yeah.
But I let them know that they've got stuff. If I get the email, that system, the emails don't seem very stable. Let's put it that way.
Not consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, not consistent.
Sometimes you get them, and sometimes you don't.
That's right.
Yep.
So, if I were doing setting up a campaign now with a social person who's doing my posting on Google Plus, I would add in that they have to go to GMB at least 2 times a week and check for reviews. And they have the answers. There's a few things now in the GMB that you should keep an eye on. There's reviews, and people can ask questions now as well.
Mm-hmm.
I ask questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a good way to, find out if you're missing something on your website or something's not totally clear to a customer, right? That's, I don't know many SEOs who do this, but Dave and I always try to talk to the support people for any products that we worked on, see what questions they were being asked, because quite often those are content and keyword opportunities.
Yep.
I've come across a number of local stores that carry products that aren't on their websites, like gas stations that have food inside from places like South Africa. And they don't say anything about it on their website.
I wonder why. That would be illegal here.
I think it's legal to sell merchandise from inside of a storefront, from inside of a gas station.
Yeah, here everything has to be done in commercial kitchens and packaged, and yeah, makes getting into the food business used to be real easy. You could start on your own kitchen stove. Now, in at least in Toronto, you can't sell it unless you're doing it from a commercial kitchen.
I think San Diego rolled those laws back like a year or two ago, so that people can do preparations in homes.
Yeah.
To sell commercially.
I understand why, but I also see it as a big deterrent to people getting started. That makes their own alternative.
I think to do that, you need to get a permit still, and they can inspect your home kitchen.
I think it requires a catering license to be able to home prepare food for sale. In San Diego County, I think it's a catering license is what they require, which has got its own requirements, and you have to have a permit, you have to have liability insurance, and you have to be a registered business. And
yeah, and that's why most people start on their stoves, because.
Right, but I was thinking about places that were carrying packaged goods that were imported from other places.
Yeah, that would be okay. Because it has to pass through the customs, and well, they don't let much through anyway, so they're really bad here. I watch it on TV, some of the stuff people try and bring in from China and that area, Yeah, we're really going to let you bring that stuff in.
Well, you don't quite always know how legitimate some of those products are, if they're counterfeits or not.
Especially out of Asia.
If you go to like an Alibaba and look at products there are sometimes things that have questionable trademark value or
handbags.
Well, somebody the other day posted something on the Vaseline product, and there was a bottle, a little jar, looked just like Vaseline, except it was spelled Vaseline instead of Vaseline. The logo looked the same. The color was almost the same. I mean, it was obviously a Chinese ripoff, but they don't have any compunctions about trying to do that whatsoever, and sometimes they sneak past,
So if they had better proofreading skills, we never know.
Well, I think they probably misspelled it deliberately, thinking that, okay, now we'll be immune for prosecution.
Yeah, thinking that would make them, yeah.
It's got to be obvious to anybody looking at it that this isn't really Vaseline.
It really wasn't. It looked, the picture showed the two side by side, and I looked at it and I had to go back. I had to look down at the comments to see, okay, what's the issue here? Then I noticed one of them was spelled differently.
If the labels are exactly the same,
Almost
our
identical.
brains are so tuned
Exactly.
into brands that we don't pick that up right away.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
how do you spell Louis Vuitton?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we still struggle with there, and there, so we're not going to get some French guy's name right.
Sure. Think we're past the hour, guys.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. To call it a day. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Everybody
Take
have
care.
a good one. See you guys next week.
Yep.